Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishnaprasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. So Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So today is the auspicious appearance day of Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. So I will share some pastimes about the life of Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur today. So before I do that, let's recite the pranam mantra together. Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Satchidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupa Nugavarayate. Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Satchidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupa Nugavarayate. Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Satchidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupa Nugavarayate. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Sachinandana Bhakti Vinoda, who is the transcendental energy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is the strict follower of the Goswamis, headed by Srila Rupa Goswami. So, as I mentioned, we will discuss the life and teachings of Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur in the next 40 minutes. So, we'll specifically focus on these few topics. So, who was Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, both materially, and who was he in the spiritual world? He was an eternal associate, but specifically, who was he in the spiritual world? Srila Prabhupada, what was Srila Prabhupada's view and what was his quotations on Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur? So, we'll address that as well. We'll focus on the three main achievements as viewed by prominent scholars from Oxford, University of Sydney, and so on Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. We'll address three main predictions that were made by Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur in 1896 and that were actually fulfilled in about 100 years. And why he was called the seventh Goswami. There are two reasons why he was called the seventh Goswami. We'll address that. He was a very powerful, bold, fearless preacher. And we'll take some pastimes of the chastisement of the mystic Bishakshena. He had a strong faith in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So there were again many pastimes which depict that. We'll take one particular pastime, emancipation of a ghost. The faith in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message. Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur had tremendous faith that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message will spread to every town and village. So he made several significant contributions in this area. So we will discuss that. And the sources of my talk are from the seventh Goswami, Swalikita Jivana, which was the autobiography of Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, and Sajjana Toshini. So let's begin. So this is a picture of Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. So as we all know, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur is a prominent preceptor acharya in our succession of spiritual masters and disciples coming directly from Krishna. He put on several hats while he was here. He was a pioneering spiritual leader. He was a grihastha. He was a magistrate working under the British rule. He was not just an ordinary magistrate. In those days, he held the highest position an Indian could hold under the British rule. So he was in the High Court, and this was the highest position that any Indian could hold under the British rule. He was a prolific preacher, he was a writer, and he was a poet. So let's talk a little bit about how it was during Bhakti Vinod Thakur's time. It was not all rosy. This is, I'm sharing with you the disciplic succession. So after Mahaprabhu departed and after the six Goswamis departed, after Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami left the world, after Narottam Das Thakur, after Shamanand Pandit, and after Srinivas Acharya departed, a dark age descended in the Gaudiya Vaishnavism. So this dark age, so it is said that there was a wave during Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's time and until Narottam Das Thakur and so on. That wave almost became as much as a small dot because of several apasampradayas that were happening at that time. So all the educated people were not willing to accept Gaudiya Vaishnavism at that time. So this was the time when Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur created a wonderful revolution and re-established the principles of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. We'll discuss that a little bit as we go ahead. But I just do want to mention that it was Madhavendra Puri who first planted the seed of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, which was followed by Ishvara Puri and then followed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and so on. So Srila Prabhupada, actually, whenever he talked about Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he addressed him as the origin of Krishna consciousness in its pure form. So origin of Krishna consciousness in its pure form. And this, as I mentioned, the seed of Gaudiya Vaishnavism was planted by Srila Madhavendra Puri. Madhavendra Puri revealed ecstatic love in the mood of Vrindavan. And as I mentioned, after the disappearance of Srinivas Acharya, Narottam Das Thakur, and Shyamananda Pandit, a dark age descended on the world of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. So let's look at what the dark age meant. So there were several apasampradayas. In fact, Bhaktivinoda Thakur identified about 12 or 13 apasampradayas at that time. So apasampradayas means these are deviants based on the teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but they were completely deviant from the actual principles, the core of what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave. So there were Aulas, Baulas, Sahajiyas, Smartas, caste Brahmins, and so on, that were very prominent at that time. And they completely, in an immoral way, misinterpreted Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings, which turned intelligent community away from Vaishnavism at that time. So the most beneficent incarnation, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, took pity on these bewildered souls, and in order to reclaim them into this wonderful path of divine love, sent his eternal associate, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur himself, into this world. And it was the spiritual attempts and divine teachings of this individual that turned the scale and led the intelligent and educated community to believe in the noble precepts and teachings of Lord Chaitanya. So who was Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in the spiritual world? He was an eternal associate, as we discussed in the previous slide. So just a brief history on who the Manjaris are and who the Gopis are. The Gopis are the assistants of Srimati Radharani, and the Manjaris are the assistants of the Gopis. Kamala Manjari is the leader of the assistants of Rupa Manjari. And that is who Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was. He was Kamala Manjari in the spiritual world. He is Kamala Manjari in the spiritual world. So he is the leader. Kamala Manjari is the leader of the assistants of Rupa Manjari, and Rupa Manjari is the leader of the assistants of Lalita Sakhi, who is one of the principal gopis assisting Srimati Radharani. Hence, he is also known as the seventh Goswami, because he was a follower of Rupa Goswami, who was Rupa Manjari in the spiritual world. So Kamala Manjari, so how do we know that he was Kamala Manjari? It was actually mentioned by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in several of his poems, in his writings, and so on. So here are three references. The first reference talks about Bhaktivinoda Thakur holds your feet and asks you to engage this unworthy servant of Lalita Sakhi in the service of the divine couple while they're performing the Rasa Leela. So here, in this particular verse, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is revealing that he was a servant of Lalita Sakhi. He goes a little bit more deeper, and then in the song Siddha Lalasa, in the Gita Mala, Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives his eternal spiritual identity as Kamala Manjari, the servant of Sri Rupa Manjari. Her Kunja is the bower of Lalita, Rajanandana Sukhada Kunja, where she sets the standard of worship to the divine couple. And then he goes a little further and explains more details. He says, my bodily hue is that of lightning, and I wear a sari, the color of clear night sky sprinkled with stars. I am 12 and a half years old, and I live is in Swananda Sukhada Kunja. So when Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur was living in Godrumadweep, he actually named his house Swananda Sukhada Kunja. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur named his house with the same name that he resides in the spiritual world. And then he talked about it and said that the private grove of Lalita Sakhi located on the bank of Radha Kunda in Vrindavan, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's songs reveal how he eternally living in this kunja is serving this divine couple, Shri Radha and Krishna. So we discussed one reason why he's called the seventh Goswami. Another reason is he was a true follower of the six Goswamis. So Nana Shastra Vicharanai Kanipunau Sadharma Sanstapako Lokanam Hitakarino Tribhuvane Manyo Saranyakaro Radha Krishna Padaravinda Bhajana Nandena Mattaliko Vande Rupa Sanatano Raghuyugo Shri Jiva Gopalago. So this is from the Shad Goswami Ashtakam. So this is talking about the characteristics of the six Goswamis. And if you see here, one who very expertly, scrutinizingly studies all the revealed scriptures with the one aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. And that's exactly what Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur did. This is another reason why he was called the seventh Goswami, because he was so strictly following the six Goswamis. And how did the biographers, the scholars, the Oxford Sanskrit scholars view his achievements? So the biographers and scholars list three major preaching achievements of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. The first one is that he wrote over 100 authorized spiritual books. He discovered the appearance place of Lord Chaitanya, the Yoga-pita, and he not only wrote spiritual books, he introduced hundreds of poems and songs full of spiritual sentiments and Shastra Siddhanta, which is philosophical conclusions. So these were the three main contributions. Of course, we know some of the books that he wrote, some of the famous books. We'll look at a few of them. So Jaiva Dharma, Sri Harinam Chintamani, Bhajana Rahasya, Gita Mala, Gitavali, Sharanagati, Sri Chaitanya Shikshamrita, and so on. And he also wrote several commentaries on the Bhagavad Gita and Chaitanya Charitamrita. So these were some of his notable works. And he had a lot of faith in Gauranga Mahaprabhu's message. So in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, it is mentioned, Priti Vite Paryanti Achejata Desha Grama Sarvatra Sanchara Haye Beka Mora Nama. So that this translates to, my name will pervade every village and country in the world. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has so much faith in Gauranga Mahaprabhu's message that he also wanted to contribute to this particular prediction that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made, that his name will pervade in every village and country in the world. So he made a start and he planted the seed of sending books to Western world. So in 1896, he sent to universities around the world, specifically to McGill University in Canada, and University of Sydney, and to Oxford University, and so on. He sent a book of shlokas called Sri Gauranga Leela Smarana, which had a 47-page English introduction titled Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, His Life and Precepts. This act rose from a keen desire to spread Lord Chaitanya's teachings in the Western world. And this is a picture of the book that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur sent to all these prominent universities in those days. So this 1896 year is very significant because that was the year that Srila Prabhupada was born. The same year, and Srila Prabhupada actually himself mentioned this multiple times, and that it is spiritually significant that he himself appeared in 1896, the same year that Bhaktivinoda Thakur sent these books overseas. So as we all know, it is the will of Lord Chaitanya, the desire of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and the mercy of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur that empowered our dear Srila Prabhupada to spread Sri Chaitanya's teachings and chanting of Hare Krishna all over the world. And another contribution or achievement that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur did was he discovered the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which was hidden before his time. This was in 1888. And here you see a picture of the temple established by Bhaktivinoda Thakur at Yogapith. And here is a picture of the deities at Yogapith. And as I mentioned, this was in 1888. And the deities, as you see here, it's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with Vishnu Priya and Lakshmi Priya. And the way this was discovered was very interesting. So when Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was in Koladweep, he was on the veranda, on the rooftop of Koladweep, and he was with his son Kamala Prasad at that time. And then it was the sun had set, it was evening time, and then both of them noticed a glow on the other side of the Jalandi river, a glow of a particular building. And while they were wondering, Bhaktivinoda Thakur even asked his son if he also saw the glow, and his son also saw the glow. And it so happened that even the next day, they saw the same glow at the same place. And this particular day, they also saw above the glow a vision of Gaurnitai. So the next morning, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and his son went to that particular building and researched more about it with maps and coordinates and so on, and confirmed that this could have been the appearance place of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But still, for several years, he was wondering if this is actually the place. So what he did later was that he took Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, who was a very famous Siddha saint at that time, to that particular place. Of course, Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj was very old, and he had to be carried in a basket. Of course, there was no wheelchairs at that time, so he had to be carried on a basket to that particular place. And as soon as he reached that particular place, Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj leaped out of the basket and started chanting and dancing Gaurahari, Gaurahari on that particular place, which confirmed Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's finding of this Yogapith. And it made him very happy that he had found or discovered Yogapith or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's birthplace. And here is the deities that are installed at that place, Gaura Narayan and his two wives, Lakshmi Priya and Vishnu Priya. So as we mentioned, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was fearless, bold, and powerful. So there is one famous pastime that occurred, and if you've all seen this TV series, Abhay Charan, you would actually see this pastime about Bishakshena. So Bishakshena was a mystic yogi. He initially started curing many incurable diseases, and he claimed himself to be Mahavishnu. And he had a huge fan following, and he had a lot of followers because he was doing all these mystic things to cure people and so on. But he always claimed that he was actually Mahavishnu and that he had a mission. And on one particular evening, he said, today I'm going to do the Rasa Leela. And he said that you should all send your young daughters to this particular Leela. So this kind of enraged the whole community, and several elders approached and complained to the divisional commissioner at that time. So the divisional commissioner passed it on to the district magistrate, who was Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Now, Bhaktivinoda Thakur took up this case, did a complete study of this crook, Bishakshena, and he identified that he was just a scoundrel. He was just a mystic yogi who was trying to make use of all of his mystic siddhis for his personal egoistic tendencies. So, of course, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, when he went and met Bishakshena, with flowery words, told Bhaktivinoda Thakur that he praised Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and he even told him that you should just follow me. I am Mahavishnu. I have a mission, so you should just follow me. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur did not take any of that nonsense, and he arrested him right there and put him in jail. So during the court proceedings, even though Bishakshena was in prison, he started using his mystic powers to cause harm to Bhaktivinoda Thakur's family. There was one point on the 6th day of the court proceedings that Bhaktivinoda Thakur's daughter became extremely sick. At that time, his wife Bhagirathi also requested Bhaktivinoda Thakur to let him free, let Bishakshena free. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur was very strong about this one particular point, that he would not let go of this crook, even if, no matter what happens. So on the 14th day, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, on the final day where the judgment had to be passed, which was the 14th day, Bhaktivinoda Thakur himself was extremely sick, and his whole right side was almost paralyzed. He was not able to even move on that particular day. But in spite of that, he asked others to carry him to the court, and he still made the judgment and sentenced him to about 1.5 years in jail. And in spite of all this, even though he was in the jail, Bishakshena still continued to have these mystic things and attack people outside, even though he was in the prison. So at one point, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur understood that this mystic powers must be residing in some part of his body, and it was brought to his knowledge that the mystic powers of Bishakshena resides in his long hair. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur himself went to the prison and cut the long hair of Bishakshena. And when that happened, Bishakshena immediately fell down. He lost all his powers. He lost all his mystic powers. And within a few days, he left the world in the prison itself. So this is a pastime which shows that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was fearless, bold, and powerful. So this is a train, because he was so efficient, because Bhaktivinoda Thakur was so efficient in his work, it is said that what others would do in 2 hours, Bhaktivinoda Thakur would do it in just 10 minutes. And because of that, here there's a picture of a train, which was a railway line was constructed all the way to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's home, because the Britishers knew that he was so effective and so efficient that they did not want to lose him. So even though Krishna Nagar, where he was posted, was 25 kilometers from Godruma Dweep, where he was residing, there was a narrow gauge local train, railway track that was made just exclusive. It was custom made just for Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's, so that he could actually go to the court proceedings and go to the court on time and so on. So this shows how important he was at that time. And this here are Gaura Gadadhar deities that were worshipped by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his home in Godruma Dweep. In fact, if you go there now, you can still take darshan of these deities. And of course, we all know this, that Bhaktivinoda Thakur had a very strict daily schedule. He would take rest for about 2 hours from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. at night. And then from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m., he would write. And then from 4 to 4:30 a.m., he would take rest. From 4:30 a.m. to 7 a.m., he would chant japa. From 7 to 7:30 a.m., he would send letters and take care of all the correspondence work. From 7:30 to 9:30 a.m., he would study Shastra. From 9:30 to 10 a.m., he took bath, prasad. From 10 to 1 p.m., he went to court, did his court duties. From 1 to 2, he would refresh at home. 2 to 5, again, he would go back to court. 5 to 7, he would translate Sanskrit Shastra to Bengali. And from 7 to 8 p.m., he would take bath, prasad. And this schedule repeated consistently for several years. So just a summary, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur slept for 3 hours. He wrote for about 8.5 hours every day. Japa and study included about 5 hours, and he worked for about 6 hours. So here was one person who balanced both material and spiritual lives. Like, he was so successful as a high court magistrate, and he was so successful in his writing and his spiritual activities that he was performing. So there were 3 predictions that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur made. The first prediction, Bhaktivinoda Thakur himself wrote that a personality will soon appear, that he will travel all over the world to spread the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. And as we all know, this personality is none other than our dear Srila Prabhupada. And so this first prediction was fructified. The second prediction was that very soon the chanting of Harinam Sankirtan will be spread all over the world. Oh, when will that day come when people from America, England, France, Germany, Russia will take up kartals and mridangas and chant Hare Krishna in their towns? And this also has passed, and we all know that people from America, England, France, Germany, Russia are taking up kartals and mridangas right now and chanting Hare Krishna in their towns. And the third prediction, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes, when will that day come when the fair-skinned foreigners will come to Sri Mayapur Dham and join with the Bengali Vaishnavas to chant Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana? When will that day be? So all of these predictions were brought to fruition through Srila Prabhupada by the grace of previous acharyas. And this is almost 100 years after that last prediction was made in 1986. You see here all the Western devotees from America, England, France, Germany, Russia, and 50 other countries gathered in ISKCON Mayapur Chandrodaya Mandir, and they all joined with the Bengali Vaishnavas there, and they started chanting Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana, Gaura Hari, Srila Sachidananda Bhaktivinoda Thakur Ki Jai. And towards the end of his life, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur took Babaji Diksha, and in 1914, on the Tirobhava Tithi of Sri Gadadhar Pandit, Bhaktivinoda Thakur entered the eternal pastimes of the Lord. And as we mentioned, in Radha Madhava's Nitya Leela, he takes the form of Kamala Manjari to serve Srimati Radharani. His Pushpa Samadhi is in his Bhajan Kutir at Radha Kund. So I just wanted to share a short video that I found of the train that passes right in front of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's home in Godrumadweep. And in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's own words, he said, "My little cottage is shining beautifully within that most enchanting garden called Swananda Sukhada Kunja. Living there, I will sing Lord Krishna's holy name, and I will greedily hanker for that time when I will get the service of him and his associates." So this is taken from Gita Mala, this particular quote. I'll just share this video. I hope you'll all be able to see it. You see, so that's the train. It's going right in front of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's home, and it would stop right in front of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's home at the entrance. Of course, this doesn't exist anymore. The railway track was removed in 2019. So, and I'll just go a little ahead. And even now, to this day, you'll find a lot of devotees assemble on a daily basis in front of, like here, this is a lot of devotees right in front of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's home, participating in Harinam Sankirtan. And oops. And this is, I'll just share some pictures. So this is Bhakti Vinod Thakur. He was, of course, known as Kedarnath Datta, and he was the official magistrate at that time. This picture was taken in the 1880s. And this is, of course, a picture of Bimal Prasad, who later on became Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. This was taken in 1881 when he was 7 years old. And this is a family picture of Bhakti Vinod Thakur. This picture was taken in 1900. And this is some of the writings. I could not get a clear picture of this, but this is actually the handwriting of Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. And this is from his Swalikita Jivana that covered 56 years of his life. It was his own autobiography. And this book was later published by one of his sons, Lalita Prasad, in 1916, after Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur's departure. And this is the shrine of Bhakti Vinod Thakur in Mayapur. And here we see His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj offering obeisances at Bhakti Vinod Thakur's Samadhi. And here is Bhakti Vinod Thakur's memorial at his birthplace in Bir Nagar in West Bengal. And here's a shrine of the actual site of birth of Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. So I'll end with one famous bhajan of Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur called Ohe Vaishnava Thakura. So on this particular day, we can think of Bhakti Vinod Thakur and meditate on his wonderful qualities and pray for him on this day by singing this wonderful bhajan. I'll just sing a couple of verses. Ohe Vaishnava Thakura, Dayara Sagara, Edase Karuna Kori. Diyapada Chaya Sodohe Amaya Tomara Charana Dori. O Venerable Vaishnava, O Ocean of Mercy, be merciful unto your servant. Give me the shade of your lotus feet and purify me. I hold on to your lotus feet. I'll recite the last verse of this particular bhajan. Krishna se tomara, Krishna dite paro, tomara shakati ache. Amito kangala, Krishna Krishna boli, daitava pache pache. So here is a Krishna se tomara. Krishna se tomara means Krishna is yours. Krishna dite paro, tomara shakati ache. It says, the power to give Krishna to me resides in you. All I need to do is, as a servant, I just need to keep running behind you, chanting Krishna Krishna and hold on to your lotus feet. Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I'll stop here. If anybody has any questions or would like to share something about Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, you can do so now. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Gautam, for such an amazing presentation. Sorry, because we had some Wi-Fi issue at the temple. We couldn't be like so regularly able to see your videos. Thank you very much. If anyone else has any questions.
I just wanted to say such an appreciation. Thank you. I was looking forward to, I knew that you would tell me something really wonderful about Bhakti Vinod. So thank you so much for that video. I'd never seen the video before, and it just, it just makes it even more visceral and real. So thank you so much for the class.
Thank you, Manajaya, for your kind words.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I really loved, it's kind of mind-blowing to me to understand how like the personalities are reflected in the spiritual world, how Bhakti Vinod Thakur was like Kamala Manjari, and I'm just trying to maybe like wrap my head more around it and understand like, is there any more writing on that, or yeah, anything like actually could.
Yeah, there's a lot of writings. As I shared a few from Gita Mala, Sajjana Toshni, and there are several writings that I found where Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur himself talks about how he was Kamala Manjari and how he was serving Rupa Manjari. And he was, of course, the leader of the assistants of Rupa Manjari. And I can share that with you if you want. I found at least 10 references where Srila Bhakti Vinoda Thakur himself mentions it. And as I mentioned, that's one of the reasons why he was called the seventh Goswami also. Because he was a follower of Rupa Goswami while he was here. And Rupa Goswami was none other than Rupa Manjari in the spiritual world. I hope that answers your question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Is that Gail
Thank you.
Mataji?
Yes, it's me. It's me. Hare Krishna. Yeah, love. It was so fascinating, your class. A couple things. One is, well, for one thing, that picture of the disciplic of all the personalities in the disciplic succession.
Yes.
Where might I find that?
Well, I can send it to you. It's something that I created.
Thank you. That's what I was hoping you would say. And the other question is, I find it so curious that that Bhaktivinoda revealed his identity, because I think we normally hear that, that these great personalities, they are reluctant, they try to kind of hide that, like Srila Prabhupada, for example, he would not readily reveal who he was. So I'm wondering why he was so kind of open about that.
I mean, he just wanted to reveal his true identity. I mean, some people hid it, some people did not. I think that's completely up to them. I think I don't know the actual reason why he chose to do it, but yeah. So.
Yeah. But so anyway, so we say that, I was just thinking because, like they're reluctant to, reveal, their deep emotions, they always kind of like try and hide that, so what to speak of revealing their true identity. So I just find that very curious. So I just want to confirm also that the two reasons why he's considered the seventh Goswami, one is because, like you said, he was such a strict adherent of the six Goswamis. But the other reason is because of his original spiritual identity.
So both of them were one reason, in the sense that both materially in this world and in the eternal world, he was a follower of Rupa Goswami. And also in terms of what the six Goswamis did, like I quoted the verse Nana Shastra, I mean, they were completely scrutinizingly, like the six Goswamis were involved in scrutinizingly going through the Shastras and with the only aim of increasing this preaching movement. And that's exactly what Srila Bhakti Vinoda Thakur did. And that is why he was called the seventh Goswami. That's another reason.
Okay. Oh, actually, I forgot. There was just one last thing. When before he took Jagannath Das Babaji to confirm Yoga Pete, there was another kind of experience that he had that kind of confirmed it for him before he got that final confirmation.
Yes.
And I wasn't so clear about what that first, like, kind of semi-confirmation was.
Yes. So the first confirmation was that while he was on the rooftop of his house in Koladweep, I mentioned that he was with his son Kamala Prasad, and he saw a glow on the other side of the Jalandi River on one particular building. And it did not happen just on one day, it happened on two particular days, 2 consecutive days. And that gave him an idea that place must be special. And then they went the next day and explored more. And there was a hidden place covered by tulsi leaves, lots of tulsi leaves. It was actually an area that were predominantly occupied by the Muslims at that time. And he found that particular place was covered by tulsi leaves. And then he explored more and he got a map and found out the coordinates and everything. And then he identified that could be the place of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's birth. But of course, as we know, he wanted more confirmation, and he received the final confirmation by Jagannath Babaji Maharaj.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much for the.
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
So Jamuna Jaya, she said that she wants the picture too.
Yes,
So it's not just me.
I'll send the PowerPoint in this chat itself so that you can all get access to it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gaurakumar Prabhu.
Thank you.
So very grateful for you for putting so much effort, making a presentation, and taking so many details of life of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Thank you so much. So we are trying darshan over the mobile.
Feeling. Come on now, turn that. And, not looking clear today. Why?